Hello, 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 good morning.
Morning.
This is the JBDC on Facebook Live for the first time. Good morning. I'm looking for people here to see if we have anybody here. This morning, we're going to be launching our first ever online edition of the entrepreneur's journey, and I hope you're as excited about it as I am. Have a very dynamic and interesting guest that we're going to be talking with and getting to have some conversation with. And I'm trying to figure out as I'm here, because this is the first time we're doing this, if there's anybody out there. I'm not seeing the live feed come up as yet, so I'm not going to get into anything until I'm sure that there are people out here with me. So give me a moment to get situated with this. And this is what happens when you are not a social media expert or practitioner, or regular practitioner, I confess. All right, I'm looking here. I'm going to check in with my tech people to tell me if we have anyone here.
Well, Kira, just one of the interesting things to understand when you're doing live events is that you don't worry about actually if there's anybody there or not.
Oh, we don't?
No, you just press on as if you have a
Oh, I love your background. This is awesome. Okay, welcome everybody. This is Chris Reckord. Yay, I said it without messing up.
Thank you very much.
And hi, Chris. We're meeting for the first time as well with the audience.
Yes.
And I am, just to let you know who I am, guys. I am Kira Walters. I'm the assistant manager at the JBDC, Jamaica Business Development Corporation. And I work primarily in the Business Advisory Services Department. And I am the usual host for this event that we call the Entrepreneur's Journey. And today, as I said, we're doing this for the first time online, and we're having a very brilliant speaker, very brilliant entrepreneur who does not like to have his horn blown, but it's my horn blowing it for you, so you don't get to tell me. Oh boy. Yes, we have here. If you don't know this gentleman that is looking at you, this is Mr. Christopher Reckord, and he is the long-time tech guru who is now, is it CEO of tTech now?
Right.
Yes. And I am searching for that thing that I just downloaded from you. Forgive me, guys. I am not a techie. Here we go. It was just open a while ago. Here we go. But it's so small. I need to make it a little bigger. My apologies, guys. Chris, why don't you go ahead and start to tell them about yourself? You're getting your way because you didn't want a long introduction. I've said your name. Tell us a little bit. Tell us about yourself as we go along.
Hey, good morning, viewers. Wow, country boy come to town many years ago. Started my first actual job as a teacher, and spent a little bit teaching electronics and electrical principles, and then moved into information technology, then moved into business part of it, and then one business to another. I mean, I'm sure you have some questions, but I don't want to tell the entire story. But one business to another business, you made some mistakes here, you migrated, came back to Jamaica, and exited not one business, got invited to join another business, and here I am at tTech Limited. We listed on the stock exchange a few years ago, and so we're the first locally owned IT company to have listed on the market. And we're now 4 years on the market. I think this year is our final year. And yes, so that's high level. Father of 2 beautiful daughters. Yes, I mean also.
Girl dad.
I'm a dad.
The girl dad hashtag.
Hashtag girl dad. Yes, I actually
Yeah.
used the hashtag the other day. So yes.
All
That's
right.
a
So
short introduction.
yes, your short introduction. Well, I'm looking at, I finally pulled up your profile here, and I'm
Don't need
seeing
to
a
go
whole
through that.
lot of things
Don't need to go through
that.
that.
Say that again, Chris.
So don't need to go through that.
I know you don't, but I want to pick on some things that I want to hear about. So you mentioned tTech. Tell us what tTech is all about.
So tTech is a managed IT services firm. In the US, in the US and Europe, they call it an MSP, a managed service provider. We don't generally understand what a managed service provider is in Jamaica. So let me give you a quick explanation. So we're an IT support company that we offer IT outsourcing services. In the past, most persons, when they needed somebody to fix their IT, they called an IT person, and the IT person turned up, fixed what they were doing, and then left. That's not what our business model is. We're an IT outsourcing, so an ITO. So we're part of the global BPO sector, but we are at what we call the ITO, in the ITO subsector. So an organization contracts us, we become a partner with your company. Our team members become your team members, so to speak, and we now manage your infrastructure on your behalf. So let's say the JBDC has an IT department, and let's say David is in charge of it. What we find and how the global business evolved is that IT has become much more complex. IT is not simple, no matter how people want to talk about it and make it sound simple. You click 2 buttons here and click on a link there. So the type of skills that you need to support an organization, a growing organization, is vast and varied. So you may have someone who knows computers so they can set up your laptop or your desktop for you and load on Windows. But then your computer needs to be connected to a network. And then that network now needs to be secure. And then now you're now connecting to cloud applications. And then the CEO of the company comes and asks you to do specific things that you now need to go and do research around user needs and use case. So there's consulting needs. That one IT guy in that company does not have the skills to do all of that stuff. So that's where we come in. We come in and partner with a David or partner with the head of IT in your organization. And we now bring to bear all the other skills that we have. So we are a small MSP in the grand scheme of things, large for the Caribbean, but small for North America. Well, you know what, it's all relative because I attend a number of these MSP events globally. And when I tell them that we have 45 staff members, their eyes open wide because most MSPs in the US have anywhere between 3 to 10 people, right? So we with 45 people are relatively big. So the short version is that we come in, our team becomes your team. With some of our customers, they're now lifelong partners. I mean, one of our customers, we have about 3 or 4 customers that we've had for 14 years, 12 years, 13 years, right? And so that's a longish explanation for an IT outsourcing company that has a long-term contractual arrangement that takes over the IT running of IT for your company. So in other words, we take away all the IT. I have one customer that says to me, she's the accountant of the company. She said, Chris, I don't want to think about IT. That is your job. Just make it work. And that's what we do. We just make it work.
Okay. All right. So I'll just ask, how has this event that's occurring now, has it impacted you guys at GTech?
So tTech.
Yeah, tTech, right. My bad, sorry.
I will say I've been very, very grateful and blessed to have an uptick in business with respect to helping people to work remotely and helping people to work from home and setting up the necessary infrastructure in an organization. So we have got, our team became very, very busy, but before becoming busy, we had to do our little risk analysis and look around globally as to what was happening in our sector. You know, and as users of a lot of global technology, we are members of a lot of user groups. So when we reached out to a number of our various principals and partners globally, we found out what was happening in their countries, because with this pandemic wave, it came from different countries to different countries, right? And so we were able to learn and prepare a little bit ahead. Now, luckily for us, we made some huge investments with cloud technology that handles all the monitoring of our organization's customer equipment and technology and environment and all of that. So over the past 3-4 years, we've been slowly migrating a lot of the technology to be in the cloud. So we don't have all these servers and all these things in our office anyway. So what happened when the patient zero was announced on March 10th, we already had a team that was our, let's call it our business continuity management team, or our risk assessment team, which we then triggered our internal plans to then started migrating people to work from home. So our entire environment was already ready to work from home. All the tools and technologies that the engineers use to monitor and remotely connect into our customers' environments were all accessible to them from their devices from home already. One of the things that tTech has always done, we provide internet, well, we contribute to the cost of your internet access at home. And of course, we provide laptops and we provide mobile devices. And one of the things we also ensure that we do is that all these devices and technologies all work in unison from wherever the engineer is. So each engineer felt that, hey, I felt like I was in the office. I didn't really lose any ground or lose anything. So we did the word I learned recently, we did an operational pivot. So whereas we used to all operate under one roof, downtown Kingston and Harbour Street, you know, operate between 3 different parishes, because we have staff in Clarendon, St. Catherine, and the Kingston and St. Andrew area. And that's what our pivot was, an operational pivot. So
you're home now, Chris?
I am sitting in my dining room.
I would never tell you, like you're in the foyer of your office.
That is the foyer of my office. But again, we learn to use the technology. And these are the things that we help our customers do, set up, get themselves ready for remote work. So we assist with not just the use of the technology, not just setting up the technology to work, but just also the mindset around engaging and interfacing with the technology.
Yeah, because it's a shift. As you speak of that though, how is your staff? Like, as the CEO of this company, I've heard you describe basically that you already had a business continuity plan in place, and it was just a matter of rolling it out, which is excellent. But having the plan and having to roll it out is another thing. When the need came up, how did it and how has it been affecting your staff personally and as they get into work?
So the experience varies across the team members. Team members that have children have a different experience than team members that don't have children. Because remember, we also have work from home. I mean, as I sit here, my daughter is sitting on at the same table as I am, having breakfast and actually going and actually attending school. Because they also work remotely. We're schooling remotely and working remotely, right? Mm-hmm. So the folks, the team members that have, and depending on the age of the children also. So if you have younger children, it's a lot more challenging, because it's not that you're going to hand them a book or hand them something and say, read this and go sit in a corner, because they don't understand what's going on. So you're working from home. They're seeing you at home, so all of a sudden it's weekend time for them and it's playtime. Mm-hmm. So that team member has a different experience from another team member that has older children. And then the team members that have no children at all, and they do have a little space at home where they can set up their laptop, those team members are very happy with the arrangement. As a matter of fact, there was a question I received recently where the team members were asking, hey, is this going to last a little longer than just this COVID thing? Because I actually like it, right?
Yeah.
And then there are those that the environment at home is not conducive. It's too noisy. They are next door to a construction site. Thank God right now my barking dog next door is not barking, and I hope I don't set my goat mouth or anything. But I have a situation where I did not realize that this damn dog barks so loudly, right? As a matter of fact, what happened the other day, one of the same persons that live next door came to visit, just came to say hello. And they came inside and I heard the dog barking. And I said, oh, you have a dog? Or like, no, it's your dog. So some of us have other challenges also. But for the most part, as you know, as the CEO of the company, one of the things that one of the things you learn with crisis management is that you have to keep in constant communication and constant contact with the entire team. So we have set up layers of communication and cascading messaging systems that we ensure that once the leadership team agrees on something, that cascading messages go reach right down to every team member almost as soon as possible. So it is important that we have daily huddles. So we have a number of teams that have daily huddles. So it was, whether it was weekly meetings, we now have a daily. And then if we had monthly management meetings, we now have weekly management meetings. So you have to increase communication massively. One of the things that I just did, I just took it on myself. I have my entire phone listing of every team member. I took it, I just called them. I just sat down one afternoon, blocked out 3 hours, and I called every single solitary team member just to say, how are you doing? And got a great amount of feedback from there for the folks who liked working from home, the folks who don't like working from home. For some people, it's hot, right?
Yes, I have my fan on too.
I have a little home office that I can't use it. It's like, it's a furnace. Yeah. So I end up trying to find where the most wind passed through, and now I'm sitting somewhere that I'm not boiling anymore. And because it's hot, I can't wear a long sleeve that I want to wear, because I can't put on a jacket, and so, you know.
Yeah.
So a few things.
My hair, like, I can't go to the hairdresser, so I'm improvising. And these things, yeah, it's really, these are some of the slight things that we have to make adjustments to. Yes. It sounds, I would love to get an experience from you. I see where you have started a few businesses, right? Okay. And tTech would be considered a medium-sized entity. Our audience at JBDC is primarily micro and some small. And so I'm just going to probably put myself in their shoes right now and say, boy, you sound like you have it all together, kind of thing. And I know you have other projects. For example, I don't know if you want to use the wine business. It's a small entity. How has that been impacted? Because it's in a completely different industry. And you know, it's also in this time. How is it managing? What's happening with that?
Well, we kind of came out of the wine bar business a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. So we don't have that going on anymore. However, we have scaled it down tremendously. So it's just kind of, it's something that my wife does from home. So yes, we do have a little micro business also. Mm-hmm. So the appearance of having it together. Listing on the stock exchange helps with that, because it comes with a fair amount of formality. But I could speak to you about before going on the stock exchange and before at tTech, when there was, you know, fledgling entities that I was a part of. Kira, the key component is continuing to educate yourself about your industry that you're in and the specific role that you play within the organization. Massive important is continuous education. And so I will put on my hat of way back at Innovative Systems days. Now, Innovative Systems still exists. It's people will know the Sovereign retail store, Innovative Superstore in Sovereign, but that started out as Innovative Systems on Red Hills Road. It was 3 of us at the time, Stephen Chang, Lisa Chang, and myself. And that was started just before Hurricane Gilbert, right? And so that was a similar time of quote unquote crisis when you have a small business that's starting.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, there was no internet.
This,
So again, communication was different.
this wouldn't be happening, right?
This wouldn't be happening. At the time, there was no cell phones, right? That was pre-cell phone days. Yes, we had two-way radios, we had beepers. So when you boil it all down, the communication component and getting a better understanding of how your industry is responding to this globally gives you some information and some guidance as to what you should be doing. I remember because it was Gilbert, because we had no power and all that, and a lot of the customer projects, everything was put on hold. I left Jamaica for an international conference of IT resellers and IT value-added resellers, and it was interesting. The conference I remember was, I think it was in Dallas, and of course, as you got there, the hurricane came from Jamaica. There's lots of questions about the hurricane, but what was more important was just understanding and seeing that, okay, this specific disaster affected nobody else, right? So everywhere you went, you landed in Miami, then took the plane to Dallas. There was no connection at the time with, so this pandemic is different from a national disaster. So there's a fair amount of learnings, even just comparing that localized crisis versus this global crisis right now. And so for me at the time, it was just all about soaking in as much of the knowledge at the conference that I could to bring back to bear to just help jumpstart conversations. And so that's one of the things that a lot of small business folks need to be considering right now is, okay, there's going to be an end or close to end. What is going to be my bounce back scenario? There was another live that I was an audience, I sat in the audience with yesterday evening, and I would encourage our listeners to go back and look for the PSOJ small business, because it's a specific forum on small business. So for full transparency, I'm also the chairperson of the PSOJ membership committee, right? So the PSOJ hosted an event yesterday, and the event was specifically around pivoting and what businesses should be considering as they go through this crisis. Because if the things that you're doing right now is not working, and you have invested already in assets or invested in a team, what else can this team be doing? What else can this assets be doing? So they talk about asset pivot, and they talk about operational pivot, and they talk about all these various types of pivots. I found it very informative, which is I used the term this morning, talking about, well, tTech has taken an operational pivot. As I learned that word, I learned that terminology just yesterday. So for my other small businesses that were happening, again, at this point in time, the beauty is that we had already kind of made a shift to a work from home scenario in that whole business. And that business is really and truly, we provide wine deliveries and custom wine packages for our customers. So we're still taking the call. Customers are, guess what? They're actually drinking more wine now. So they're staying home, and we're getting the calls, hey, put together a mixed case for me. I need a mixed case of red and a mixed case of white. My wife and I sit down and huddle around the table, and then we look at our various vendors' wine lists, and then we say, okay, based upon that person's taste profile, here's what they would like. Now, what should be happening and what needs to happen is that we need to digitize all of that. We heard the Prime Minister in the press conference this week talking about Jamaica needs to become a digital society. Many of us have been saying that for the last 20 years, right? But nothing before its time. IT practitioners have been saying it for a while. So at a high level, just to, it's around understanding, and we have seen versions of pivots take place right now with a number of folks who have access to, whether it's small factories. Everyone is making a mask now, or a version of a mask, right? So my good friend Kenya Linton George, who her boutique, she's pivoted to mask. Another friend of mine who does interiors, Earline, Interiors by Earline, she's pivoted to mask. I have samples of their mask that they have sent. So yes, so people need to be considering what exactly they can be pivoting to right now.
Okay, we've had some of those conversations as well here. since we've gone online ourselves at JBDC, we have the virtual biz zone where we have weekly webinars speaking about, what are some of the things that people need to be entrepreneurs need to be looking at, how they need to be looking at the business and doing the pivoting like you're talking about, ensuring that if they didn't have a continuity plan in place, quickly doing that kind of assessment and mitigating as quick as possible, putting things in place as quick as possible. So yes, all of that is necessary and important. And I'm so happy that there are so many different, it seems from just and I'm not even consuming a lot of what is happening out here, because since the pandemic started, but I'm seeing a lot happening on the local scene, where our organizations or associations and so on are putting out information, the digitization, that presence is there. So I'm really happy for that. I'm proud of that.
Yes, so the group, the small business group within the PSOJ has created a number of documents, and it would be nice if your tech and admin folks could link up some of the, because I'm not looking at the live or anything online because I don't get confused.
Right.
Link up some of the PSOJ small business document links in there, because they are very, very, very helpful documents as small and micro business. They give you a lot of ideas as to where and how you can go for financial aid and assistance. The banks that are offering all types of breaks right now, and how to get those breaks and how you qualify. The last document that came out last week was around this document filled with all this pivot and all the examples. And if they can go back and watch the live interview yesterday with Rochelle Cameron and Nevada Powell, where they went through examples of all of these pivots, and they brought on interviews. So for example, somebody who owns a small gym, they have pivoted, they've started renting out some of their gym equipment to their customers, and they are now using the same facility that we are using now here and having gym classes. Now, my exercise group that I was a part of, they kind of pivoted and started doing that. But one thing I said to them, I said, guys, as we talked about, work from home is not for everyone. This gym home thing is not for everyone. I signed up to have I signed up initially to have a coach. We usually, we met 3 times a week out in a football field somewhere, and we did all our exercises there for 3 times a week. When we pivoted that to a home scenario, it wasn't working for me, because I want outdoors and I want the camaraderie of everybody out there in the field, and I want our instructor to be guiding me as to my posture, because that's how I hurt myself a few years ago, by using the weights the wrong way, right?
Before you move on, you mentioned the documents and so on. Where can we get access to those? Is it on the PSOJ's website?
So the PSOJ website will have access to it. If you go to the PSOJ's Facebook page, and then there's a special Facebook page that was created for the PSOJ Small Business Project. There's an Instagram page, small SME, small business enterprise page, both on Facebook and on Instagram. So all the various digital media channels, all the documents are there. You can download all the documents. So it would be very, very helpful for JBDC and the JBDC.
Our audience. Thank you very much for that. Let me ask you a personal question. Do you consider yourself to be a success?
Several years ago, when I was walking, so I'm gonna do a small tangent. In our meetings at office or management meetings, we have somebody who monitors tangents, and if you start going on a tangent, they shout out tangent alert, right?
So I'll give you 2 minutes. 2 minutes max.
To say that one of the other things that folks should consider, and you've seen all the memes going around. You look to be a very a fit person, from what I can see. You look to take care of yourself. You look like you're glowing.
Oh, thank you.
Right, folks.
Work from home is working for me.
So one of the things that folks need to consider is also taking care of themselves from home. I know people are stressed out about their business, losing their job. Some of our households have moved on from double income to single income. So taking care of yourself is important. And so I have started to do my daily walks around the neighborhood. I found a route that is 500 meters. So if I do 10 laps, it's a 5K. So I jokingly tell everybody, I try to do a 5K every day, right?
Okay.
So getting back to answer the question now, on years ago on one of my 5K walks, I was listening to leadership coaching because, again, I can't afford the expensive coaches. So I listen to podcasts. I find the leadership coaches that have online programs or audiobooks, and I listen to it. So years ago, I was listening to Bob Proctor, big name in any sort of personal development. And one of his definitions of success, so I'm getting to the answer, right? One of his definitions.
I'm on the route with you.
One of his definitions of success, and I use it every now and then, and he confessed it wasn't his; he was taking it from somebody else. It's a continuous progression towards a worthy ideal, right? Continuous progression towards a worthy ideal, or something to that effect. And it has stuck in my mind, and I just considered. I said that is my definition now, and I'm adopting it. Deepak Chopra and a lot of these other guys, they have taken various versions of it, and it's come to the same thing. So I have a plan. I have a number of plans. I have a family plan. I have a plan with respect to tTech. I have a plan with respect to my wine stuff. I have a plan with, respect to me personally. And I am moving towards those goals. And so if I use that definition of this continuous progression towards these worthy ideals, and the importance of the word worthy in there is that you can't have wishy-washy goals that you set out. Lots of us go through and they talk about SMART goals and all of that, specific and measurable. It must be meaningful. And
okay, so what makes them worthy for you? How do you measure that?
So worthy is going to be very, very different for each one of us, right? A micro goal for me at the start of all of this, the instant that I realized that I'm going to be home, is weight loss. I have a goal to lose 15 pounds in 3 months, right? Thankfully, I went on a scale this morning and I'm down 9 pounds. Because
congratulations.
Well, it's aggressive. So I have friends that I meet up to the hill walks, the hikes, 5K. I have friends that I meet up to walk around the circle. So that is not boring. I call different people to find out, hey, what are you doing for exercise? And then I go meet them up and I start. So I'm doing, sometimes I do a 5K in the morning and a 5K in the evening. I'm not running a 5K. I'm walking and jogging, mostly walking and talking. But at least I'm covering a 5K distance, trying to make sure that I burn the calories. So that's one of the goals. Other goals include learning, right? So with respect to all of this, I am one of these business leaders that will fess up that I understand business technology. I understand marketing of that business technology. I am not a finance guru. I'm not a finance whiz. I call my finance friends for that. And so it's a time for me to say, can I find an online finance course that's going to give me some knowledge of understanding some of those things a lot better? And so it's a time for learning. I sit with my daughters over the Easter holiday and I said, ladies, we're going to do lunch and learns now. Of course, the eyes rolled, right? But I tried my best and I've pivoted from lunch and learn to just our learning moment for the day, because the lunch and learn thing wasn't working for too long. So these are little goals that I have had, that I have set for me personally. The business goals are out there. I mean, I can show you my annual report and I'll show you what's going on, because that's a public business. So that's easy to see what all those goals and plans are.
You still not tell me if you feel like you're a success, but like how you take the jogging route round the question and you still not answer.
Who should have?
What I picked up though,
yes.
What I picked up though is that you have it sounds to me like you have themes in your life, yes. And I'm just surmising from and extracting from what you said that these themes are progressive. There are no goalposts per se that end. And so the pursuit of these, because they're building you up, makes them worthy. And I would assume, well, based on the fact that you are you're a CEO for a medium size, entity that they also impact the society at large. And also from your profile, I'm seeing that you're involved in quite a few other things. So you're touching lives as well.
Yes.
And so I just wanted to hear in your, words or just from your own self, how you think you're measuring up on that. But because you're going around, I'm going to just
No. Okay, all right. So let me answer the question. So if I'm using the definition of, well, worthy progression to these worthy ideals, then yes, I have had some level of success, and I continue to be successful on that journey. Are we at the motherland and the promised land? No, because we are continuously moving the goalposts, right? And so it's a continuous journey.
So one of your successes would have been getting tTech on the stock exchange, yes. Right? What would you think? What would you say is one of the anything pivotal, like a pivotal event or moment that occurred in one starting from that journey, decision to go there, and the actual getting there? Were there any significant challenges that you had to overcome? Were there any things that made you feel like, wow, what is this that we took on? Can we not bother?
There's this interesting concept called collective knowledge, right? And that the knowledge of the many is sometimes better than the knowledge of the one, right? And so one of the things that we did earlier on was to reach out to experts who have done this thing before. At the time, the executive of tTech consisted of this. The then CEO was the founder. His name is Teddy Alexander. And Teddy had a number of relationships with folks who have actually done this before, taking their small business to the stock market. I have had a number of relationships. My own cousin was the first company on the junior market. That's Marcus James with Access Finance. And so we all reached out to all our resources to find out from everyone, tell us where all the pitfalls are, tell us where all the issues and challenges are, so we can ensure that we mitigate those risks as much as possible. So that's one of the first things we did, reach out to all these folks to get this list of things. And then once doing this, you always need guidance from, you need a financial advisor or a financial arranger. Then you also need a legal person. When the legal person sent us the list of requirements to go public, the list was daunting. The list was scary of all the things that we needed to do. Of course, it made us question ourselves. Do we really want this? Why are we doing this? Which was, by the way, part of the pre-assessment. Why do we want to do this thing or not? And so a pivotal change, something, advice, guidance, an idea that came to us. We looked yonder, looked at the University of the West Indies, and at the time it was close to graduation, or school was just finished. And they had all of these law students that were coming out, all looking for jobs. And so one of the things that we did through the advice and guidance of one of our legal colleagues, to say, hey, bring in one of these trainee lawyers, or one of these, well, there are no, I don't think when you're finished law school, you're a lawyer until you pass the bar, or whatever the arrangement is. So we brought in someone in the office, and that was a massive, massive help, because that person came in, we took the rule book from the stock exchange, we handed it to them and said, know that like the back of your hand in the next 2 weeks, right? That's all you're here to do. And then they studied it and they inhaled it, right? And then I said, here are the list of everything that we need to do to become listed. I said, make it so, right? And that helped tremendously.
Where you get that idea from? Where did you get that idea from? Because that was brilliant.
Remember what I said earlier about,
that was brilliant.
Remember I said about collective intelligence?
Yeah,
It's a collective intelligence of a bunch of people that just saying, hey, maybe, because when you look to say you're going to hire a lot, we can't afford no lawyer to come and do this for the next. You're mad, right?
that was brilliant.
So one idea went to the next idea, and an associate that was in our law firm's office said, hey, look, man, just get, and we're like, and it happened, and it worked tremendously. As a matter of fact, whilst in the middle of the process, that lawyer got a job, right? And then so that lawyer knew another student lawyer who didn't have a job, and said, rope them in, make sure that their profile is similar to yours, and they're as diligent and detailed as you are. And they brought them in and kind of continued. And even after the process finished, there's a whole, you learn this term about shelf documents and all these documents that you need to create that you just need to have them. Nobody's really actually going to be reading them, but they need to be created. All that work needs to be happening. And so the legal person just took that weight off of our shoulders and helped tremendously.
I like that, and I'm sticking on it because I hope that anybody who may be viewing this will take it as a method in which they can extend their own capacity without incurring, extraneous costs while doing it. So you're getting the job done. As you said, it was something that was daunting, but just leveraging networking and resources is excellent.
And that can be done in many
different ways.
areas, right?
Yeah.
So another one of the things that that I end up doing, Kira, is I end up doing naturally. As remember, there are many facets of our life, and if I was going to share a screen, I don't have it up on my screen right now, but there's this life assessment. One of my very good friends, and she's also a business coach, Stacey Hines. She had this workshop where you do an assessment of your life and all of that, and so you have a mapping. So you have your spiritual aspect of your life, physical aspect. You have your mental, you have your family, you have your business, you have all these. So it's a big sphere. And you gauge yourself from 0 to 10. 10, I am amazing. 0, I suck at this. And you create this map of yourself. And so in that map of myself, you realize on the intelligence side, okay, what am I going to do for intelligence? I live on a regular traffic day, 40 minutes from my office. And in the evening, it becomes almost an hour. So what do? You listen to audiobooks.
Drive Time University.
Right? Drive Time University.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, once a book is good, I end up buying the physical book also. So I end up having both of them because I want to highlight and underline, right? So I ended up, on average, although I've reduced now because I'm now kind of honing on certain type of topics and certain authors, but over the last several years, anywhere between 40 to 50 books a year, right? And as a result of that learning, you end up figuring out there are many ways, and I'll use the stupid term, there are many ways to skin the cat, right? And when you read books such as Lean Startup, or you read these lots of stories of entrepreneurs out there, you realize that these folks understand that in order to get experience, they have to get work and go working somewhere. Sadly, too many of our graduates, yes, they have bills to pay and all of that. When they come out of school, they want massive pays, massive pay scale. They want the world. And not a lot of people are willing to come in and work for a small stipend for a period of 3 or 4 months just to get the experience. So those folks that came in to help us with that process, they're all working. We're all working in decent jobs because they came and spent 4 to 6 months with us as we were going through all various processes. So it's something that small entrepreneurs or startup need to figure out, that although I'm starting this business on the side, let me go work for this guy here for 6 months so that I can get a feel and be upfront with it. And let the person know I have this thing on the side. Here's what I'm doing, but I'd like to come and get some experience. Is it something that's okay with you?
Okay. While we're on that, there are some entrepreneurs now, there are some business people now who are really scared. They're concerned, and they basically may be experiencing some stagnation or just, you know, the flight or flight thing. Some may be running off and doing things, and some may have just frozen. What would you say are 5 things that they can do to, you know, move to get the movement going? No.
Again, I'm going to go back to that that Facebook Live that the PSOJ's small business team did yesterday. And they really and truly did a deep dive in this whole idea and concept of pivoting. They went through a number of, I'm actually going to look to see if I can find it while I'm talking to you. They went through a number of a number of methods in which they went from the easiest version of pivoting all the way to the most scariest version of pivoting. And the scary version of pivoting is when you have to, go ahead.
I wanted you to take it from the perspective of, I'm thinking you sound like you have a lot of self-determined, like your agency, your sense of agency is very strong. And for you, it may not be as challenging. I was thinking as I asked the question, how important do you think the matter of internal, who the person is on the inside versus the external things? So some of the things that you're mentioning about the pivoting, those are some external things. But what can the person look at from a internal? What are some of the factors that they can be looking at internally from their own point of view, the personal perspective? And you can maybe throw in some external things. So it's personal skills.
This is where my business coach and my other life coach would be best to answer, you know, something like this. For me, well, my sister is also a business coach and a leadership coach where, you know, we live in the same neighborhood, live in the same complex, and we walk in the evenings and we talk about leadership and business and self-confidence and all the various components of leadership. You're an entrepreneur, you're leading your own little thing, or you're an aspiring entrepreneur that you want to start something. The various aspects, and I've never really thought about it in the way that you have asked the question. So yes, that whole sense of self, and it's something that happened. So, you know, you talk about hero's journey and all of that. Let me tell it in a story form. When I decided to move back from the USA, I was living in the US. A friend of mine had started this business there, invited me to join. I was already involved in another business in Jamaica, which I was one of the owners of. There were 3 of us that owned the business. But, you know, this allure of the USA and being a tech person, getting invited to this tech firm that is a startup is exciting. So I had a talk with my business partners, gave them literally about a year's notice and said that, guys, I need to go try this thing. I need to experiment. Migrated, went to live in Florida, got married around the same time, got onto this super fast treadmill that you're now in North American speed, and did it for several years. This was in an economic downturn back when the tech bubble burst back in 2000 timeframe. So it was very, very challenging for the business to be growing. Now, luckily, they got their last funding before the proverbial door slammed shut. And working in those times, luckily, there were folks that had massive confidence in themselves, massive confidence in their team. And yes, they did get some funding, so there was money in the bank to propel the business through that startup. The startup occurred, it was going on, about 5 acquisitions happened over the period of about 3-4 years, where the business grew from, you know, 20 of us who started the business initially, all the way to when I left the business, might have been 400 people across about 6 states and maybe 3 countries. So I was part of that whole washing machine, treadmill, hamster cage, up at 4:30 in the morning to drive to West Palm Beach for a meeting, going to bed at midnight because you've had several meetings downtown Miami and all that. So went through all of that. An opportunity came for me to start my own business in Jamaica. So, I have this thing. Do I stay in this business and try to exit in the way that my partners were trying to exit, sell the company or go public, or come back to Jamaica and start something? So you grow up learning that, boys, better you have your own thing. So you sit down and talk to my partners up there again, decided to move back to Jamaica to start my own business, and exited, left, came back to start my own thing. And then a year and a half, 2 years after that, that business is bought and sold. And everybody who stayed pocketed hundreds of thousands of US dollars extra. I mean, the owners pocketed millions. The business was sold for about, I don't remember right now, maybe 200, 300 million US dollars. And you kind of like hold your head down and said, man, I left a year too early, right? So you sit down with that gut punch. But you remember, you're here, you started something new. So you're here on this new hamster cage, started this new business with this new idea, and you're building up this IT services company, and things are going mostly okay, but then they start to be challenges because it's a young team. Not all of us understand all the, we have HR experts and CFOs, and so we understand tech. We know how to fix technology stuff. We know when we walk in a business, when the tech is working or when the tech is not working. That's what we know and understand. We understand information technology. But the running of business is not something that we understand. So you make a bunch of mistakes, and then you're now facing closure and staring down the abyss. And in the midst of all of that, you have youthful zeal, not realizing where the business is. You take a vacation. I took a vacation. My business partner gets massively upset with me, and then we are at daggers drawn. You go through that stress and strain, and then that relationship never really repairs. The business continues to grow because at that point in time, I said, guys, we need professional help. So we're bringing in business experts who can help us. So we get back on the right footing, and the business is now, the graph is now heading in the right direction for the most part, but you get some help. But at some point in time, your ego is kind of like a little bruised because things still not going right with all your relationships, right? And then at some point in time, you stand up and look in the mirror long and hard to find out, is it my fault? Is it me? And that mirror look takes a year, because you're continuously now checking all kind of things, and you dive into self-help, and you start to look at all of this, and like, it must be me because this and that, and it must be me, and your mistakes. And I start another business because that's when the wine business also starts, and then you're spending some time in the wine business, and your business partner and your other business is costing you because you're spending time in the wine, but you're an entrepreneur at heart. So you're always juggling and starting new stuff. But again, you have to go and stand up and look in that mirror. Is it me? Am I the cause of why this thing is not taking off and why this thing is not taking off? And this is when really and truly reading these books really help. And because, learn all these other, they talk about Joseph Campbell. Of course, we all have to read Joseph Campbell. We talk about the hero's journey. And I realized that, hold on there. But that's me. But I'm seeing there, right? And I mean, even look at something, something like The Matrix, right? You look at something like The Matrix, and I realize that you have to ask the question, am I in the damn Matrix? Right. So just to come back around quickly, because, as my wife will tell me, and my former business partner, and my current business partners will tell me, sometimes I'm too long-winded with some of these things. But at the end of the day, you have to do that check of yourself and realize that, but this is just the journey, right?
You're learning.
Just the learning.
You're learning. Constant learning.
This is just that treadmill of success. When you look at that proverbial pyramid of success, and you see the tip, and everybody just say, oh, you know, you're CEO of this company, da, da, da.
Yeah.
They don't say all the rest of the stuff that happened below. All the
Right.
fight and the cuss and the ball in the
Right.
night and the 2 o'clock in the morning staring at the ceiling because you don't know where the payroll for the next 2 months are going to come from, right? They don't say that. So long-winded to answer your question, yes, you have to start to steel up yourself. You have to start to do that self-talk, right? It may sound like positive self-talk, but you have to have a realistic plan to, you can't just balance out law of attraction and just speak it into being and believe it's going to happen so, right? Because we don't know, I mean, I'm not deeply, I mean, I used to be deep in church one time. I can't remember all these scriptures, but you know, you have to have the works behind just the talk,
faith.
right?
Right.
You can't just faith alone without the action.
Right.
Action have to balance it out. So you have to go do some things. I can't just sit down and say, I mean, I posted on my Facebook page the other day and I say, hey, I need a realistic plan to lose 15 pounds or to lose some weight in 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I dug and dug, and of course my wife kind of nudged me and gave me this thing, and I said, oh, I had a program that I was at, typical ITK Academy. I took part in a program and I got a certificate. I lost 22 pounds in that program. So I said, hold on a minute. I know how to do this. I was reminded that I know how to do this. So all of those things that I went through in pre-moving overseas, went overseas, had that massively fantastic learning experience, came back, started another business, the third business I'm starting now. All of a sudden you realize, I know how to do this. Why are you doubting yourself? Mm-hmm. So yes, some of that ability. So what needs to happen is that folks have to look back on their experience. I've started something already. It was successful. I look around, you look at your family, you look at the things that you have done right. But you also need to look at all the things you have done wrong and find out what did you learn from it.
Yes.
I'm doing this online. I do a bunch of these online short courses. There's a gentleman that, one of my business coaches, I have about 3 business coaches, right? I have a coach that sent me something to talk about the scary times. I was right there somewhere, the scary times manual, right? And so,
can't see it.
Oh, the technology, my technology is thing there. The
scary times. Okay.
The scary times success manual, right?
Right.
And so I went on one of his podcasts. I listened to a lot of podcasts, by the way. Dan Sullivan he asked a question, and it's something I use in my home learning the other day with my family. And he says, as an entrepreneur, name the top 3 to 5 scariest times you have ever been through in your life, right? And then why was it scary, right? What did you do, or what do you learn from it? What did you do to whether it's fix it or put it behind you? And then what has changed in your life since then? And what has now become a normal part of your assessment of just your life moving forward? And I sat down and I dug deep and I said, right, I remember that time when this happened. I remember that other time when this happened. And I sat with my kids. I mean, I have a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old. And I said to them, I said, darlings, life is this short. I don't really have much, it's gone. But what has been the scariest time? And my youngest daughter said, Daddy, I was so scared because when we discovered that she was asthmatic, right? She was feeling horrible. And we kept, I tell her to lie down and relax. And she said, I can't breathe. And then we rushed her to the one hospital. That hospital said, sorry, we can't handle her here. We have to rush her to another hospital. And then all of a sudden, this moment come over me that, oh my God, here am I trivializing this little thing and just tell her to go lie down. And this girl almost died, right? And so that was her scary moment. I went through the process. What did you learn from it? What have you changed since then? So all of that learnings is what folks need to kind of dig back in their own personal history. I have gone through scary times before. What did I do to come out of those scary times? What did I have to dig deep within myself? So yes, it's the self-confidence, the faith in yourself. But more importantly is that we have people around us, our collective team around us that don't understand some of the stuff. Or sometimes just reach out to somebody.
Yeah.
They talk about having coaches and a joke I make. I say, some of these people are my coaches. I mean, I have a pile of books in front of me, or the technology probably would not allow me to show them. But these people are also coaches. You don't know them, but they're giving you lessons through their books, you know?
Okay. So I've interviewed a few entrepreneurs over the years, and I've noticed a pattern, whether you all say it explicitly or not, but there are some traits that come out, as in some personal traits that are central to the ones who society and those looking on would deem to be the ones who are achieving some amount of success and are of note in terms of emulating, for example. And you've demonstrated some of them, the passion, and you seem to be just like an adrenaline. You just love the rush of getting involved in different starting projects and seeing them take off. And the learning, that love for learning, that avarice for just consuming knowledge that will expand your ability to process and to do what it is that you do better, and also to improve on your personal skills. You also mentioned that introspection, which you've just been talking about, the ability to look back at yourself and see what it is that you have been doing and what you have done that works, what doesn't work. And what I'm hearing you say is that this is what builds your sense of confidence and your ability to move forward, even when things get rough. And it's not just, you can take from one area of your life and use it in other areas of your life. So it doesn't have to be always the same situation. And I'm hearing a very strong, you didn't say it out loud either, but there's a reference to having some belief in something outside of yourself. You know, you mentioned faith. You also mentioned reaching out to whether it's other people or to that source that, you know, is going to do for you what it is that you can't do for yourself. And I think you answered the question in your own long, roundabout way very well. I think you've thrown out quite a few nuggets and lessons in terms of, okay, as an entrepreneur, whether it is for these times when we are facing, you know, unforeseen and unprecedented, you know, I don't want to use the word crisis. I prefer to use opportunities to look back and examine for opportunity, and to examine where we may have exposure and to do something about those things. But if we are able to shift our from the fear. I like that one. We said the scary. What do you call it again?
Scary times. The scary
times. I think it's an excellent exercise to do, because yeah, you're putting yourself in a situation where you would have overcome something, and to just build that sense of belief that you can do it again. I think we're just about on the time where we should wrap up now. And I want to just ask you to give for our local audience who may be tuning in right now, give us a word of is it inspiration? I don't want to say advice, but this I still want. I don't know. I feeling like there are people out there who may need some kind of, you know, something to perk them up. So if you have any words of inspiration for our entrepreneurs out there.
At this time, so one of the things that, again, I've had to practice, talking about believing that there's a higher power. There is a higher power. I'm doing almost daily meditation now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So meditation and the need to center yourself, calm yourself down, just go within, and not much clearer mind, but just I'm using a term I heard of, friend of mine stay on an interview last night, talks about slowing down that treadmill, slowing down the treadmill of thoughts that are coming, just calming it down and just kind of picking out the gems that are there. If you have never meditated before, I'm encouraging people to, there's hundreds of YouTubes and podcasts and audio books and free resources out there that talks about how do you calm yourself down to listen to that still amazing knowledge that is inside, right? I think one needs to try it. I'm not a regular yoga practitioner, but I do practice yoga. I exercise every day, and in the exercise, and I do a lot of yoga stretches to stretch my back because I have a lower back challenges. And so in doing that, you still your mind down. And one of the the meditations that I've been doing over the past month, Oprah Winfrey and Deepak Chopra has a free series going on right now, and the whole thing is centered and focused on hope.
Oh, I'm doing that one too.
Hope. And let me tell you something, there are some days that my anxiety is out of control. And which is why I've removed Facebook from my cell phone. I've removed Instagram from my cell phone, right? And I then go on those things on my computer or on a tablet when I feel like. Because the instant it's on your phone, it's coming at you. I've turned off all notifications on all WhatsApp groups. Nothing comes up to notify me that there's anybody sent me a WhatsApp message, right? You have to disconnect it. So with all the noise that's going on out there, one has to dig deep within themselves to understand, have life. And once you have life, then literally almost anything is possible. I know some people don't believe that. Some people talk about, you can't go and talk about you have life. We have bill for pay now and where. The most, and I've said it to a few entrepreneurs, I said, look, is the idea still viable? Because in this massive global change, this is the first time in the history of humanity, first time in the history of humanity that a global pandemic of this magnitude is affecting everyone at the very same time in the very same way.
Yeah.
Never happened before. There have been pandemics before. This is not the worst pandemic, by the way, we've had. We've had one worse than this in the 1300s, right? Where a third of all adults in Europe died. I mean, that was massive. The Black Death, I think they called it. But this one here is touching everyone globally at the same time, in the same way. And we're all hearing about it. We're getting the updates every minute of the day. I asked a question on a Facebook group the other day. I said, why do we need to skip or like watching a cricket match? Why do we need to know the number every day? I said to my wife, I said, I don't want to know the number anymore. I don't want to hear it. Right? It doesn't matter to me. I said, what if the number was 500? Right now it's 200 and something I heard yesterday. What it's now 600? What are you going to do differently? It's now 1,000. What are you going to do differently? I say, and then somebody started, oh, we need to know the numbers because I said, no. What you're explaining to me is what the medical system needs to know. They need to know and understand that.
I so agree.
What do you and I need to know all these numbers for everything?
Exactly. We already know what we need to know.
That's what we need to do. Where's all my mask at, right? I'm a mask.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm doing here now. We need to do what we need to do. Right now, I have to go out and do some things. I put on my mask, I wash I try not to touch them. We've given the protocol. Let's just follow the protocol, right?
Exactly.
So we have to settle our mind. We have to look at, is this business idea that I'm about to embark on, is it still viable? Or is it even more viable now? Nevada and Rochelle on the PSOJ forum yesterday gave a great example of, so you may or may not know, but there's a small business, a set of folks that have small businesses that they have a car or two or three, not taxis, but they do driver service, where they drop off and pick up children to school. So kids who parents are busy, they cannot take their own children to school, and especially pick them up in the evening. So these people have started businesses. They're entrepreneurs. They start a business to do that. There ain't no picnic to pick up and drop off. No. So you have 3 or 4 cars that you've invested in. You have drivers. What are you going to do? They have pivoted. They start to pick up and drop off food, right? They pick up and drop off supplies, so medical. You also start to be of service. How can I give? How can I help? Call ministry. What? I have 3 cars. Can I drop off and pick off and drop off some nurse for you somewhere? You start to offer some stuff for free right now to just give, or at a discount or something as a pivot.
Boy, you just that was just, you thrown out so much a while ago. And in all of what you said, you're saying we need to calm down. We need to go within because we have what we needed within already. We need to tune out. We need to cut off some of all of that noise that is around us. And we also need to be of service. Precious, very important points, because a lot of times you've spoken about this treadmill that entrepreneurs are on, and they tend to pay attention to the mechanics, the operational side of things, which is very important. But you are a whole being. You're a whole being, and your optimum functioning won't be available to you if you don't take these moments to replenish and restore. And that's what the inspiration, I think I've heard maybe Deepak speak about it, since you mentioned it, that inspiration, or is Michael Beckwith, one of them, that says that basically inspiration is allowing for things to come down to you. You know, in that silence that you're talking about, you're allowing for it to come through.
You know, anecdote. I don't know how many people, and any entrepreneur who's going through an ideation process, there has to be a time, or had to be a time, when you stood there in that shower and something popped in your mind that wasn't there before. You're like, oh, that's an amazing idea. It is because of that solitude, because of the water falling. There is a set of things that happen. And I've read this in all kind of advanced books, and I don't know the scientific thing behind it, but there is that still moment of calm when things just pop in your mind, right? And we have to learn to listen and trust when that pops in our mind. I will action it and do something about it. And I'll tell you to run, go share your idea with everybody, but run it through your process. Because you have a process, you have your trusted advisors, you have a group. Run it through your process. Maybe it's time to pivot what you're doing now, or maybe it's time to double down on what you're doing now.
All right, Chris, I don't want to keep you. I know you're a busy guy. I have one question from someone who is on Facebook that sent me a message directly. And they heard you mention law of attraction.
Yes.
And they want to know how much influence do you think intuition and positive thinking has over your business decisions and pure intellect, like studies and research and stuff? It's like gut instinct.
So when I was going through that whole doubt and confusion phase, you know, when you're in Joseph Campbell's journey, when you're gone into the wilderness, you're gone out there to figure out, who am I? You have that who am I moment as part of the learning. So interestingly enough, I had seen this book somewhere, the original Law of Attraction by, what's his name again? I have it upstairs. I have 7 bookshelves at home, right? This is one of the bookshelves. When I bought that book, I thought it was about business attraction and marketing, right? So that's why I bought it, right? And then I don't know how I started to hear about this other thing about law of attraction. Just, it might have been when I had watched the movie The Secret or whatever it was, right? And so I said, I have this book somewhere at home. Where the hell it is? And I dug it up and I found it. And then I read it. And when I read the book, I was like, this has been sitting here for the last year on my bookshelf and I don't read it. And then I dug up and I realized that I had Napoleon Hill,
Yes.
Think and Grow Rich.
Yes.
No, that book has been sitting there for another 2-3 years because I buy these books because you get a list from somebody saying you buy this. So you buy this book and I read it and I'm like, this has been sitting here for all this time. So what those books and those inspiration and just downloads have done, they have bolstered you, they have created the confidence. And of course, they make you ask a lot of questions because can I just sit here and just in my car, I'm driving through a parking lot, I am going to find a space. I am just speak it into being. It not quite works, so you understand? But there is something, there is some, what Bob Marley said, there's a natural
mystic flow.
There is some natural mystic that science don't understand yet. So why I'm a proponent of always looking at research and all of that. There's something, right? I jokingly, you know, my wife, not in front of me now, so I can say it, but maybe I shouldn't say it. Anyway, my wife is afraid of grasshoppers, right?
Okay.
And we go to this event in Mexico City. We open the room, there's a grasshopper in the room, right? We go to Italy, down in Florence, we open the room, there's a grasshopper in the room, right? And I jokingly say, darling, we need to go through the process of purging this massive dislike for grasshoppers because wherever the hell in the world we go,
you attract them.
In Delaware, and there's a grasshopper up in this room. They've never seen a grasshopper in the house yet, ever, right? So to answer the question specifically, it ties back to something I mentioned, and I need to find my proper church, my proper Bible thing about, you know, words without deeds makes no sense. It comes back to that. We have to have this belief in what we're doing. We have the idea, we got the download. We believe that this thing can work. All right, a story that I didn't tell. I know we're on, wow, 11
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's quickly tell you. When I moved back from the US to start this business, you know, I called up a friend who, former business partner, no longer business partners, and I said to him, I said, you want to own your own business? And he said, yeah, man, it sounds like a good idea, Because I was trying to do a thing where I was going to live in the States and start this business in Jamaica and just have it as a side business. That wasn't going to work, right? So we came down, I kept on coming down to Jamaica to have business meetings with him, a farmer, do the business plan, we have everything. And I realized we need about $20 or $30 million, right? I don't have no $20 or $30 million. He has no $20 or $30 million, right? And we sit down and try to figure out where we're going to get this investment from. And we were buying a part of a business from another business to start this business. And the deadline is coming up as to when we need to put things in place and funds and all this thing in place. And the deadline is coming. And I get into this vibe where I'm like, I said, look, and I didn't know, but what happened to me, it was just this more calming moment where I had to go back to the US because I had work, I was still working. And a friend of mine was dropping me onto the airport and I told him the story. I said, boy, I put myself in a little stickle. I come with this grand idea that I'm going to start business. And all of a sudden, I need to find, I say, in order for me to, I need working capital. I need about $25 to $30 million to start this business. And he just turned to me and said, Chris, when you need the money by? And I was like, what do you mean? He said, let me show you something. I said, well, we might be a little late. Let me show you something. And he took me around to an office space that he had. And he said, look here, this thing can work for you? And I'm like, yeah. So I called my business partner at the same time. I said, what you doing now? I said, drop everything you're doing now. Come meet me at this place right now. Came and met me. I said, this can work for us? And he said, yeah. And then, so we continued on our journey. So he went back to, so my business partner went back to his office and I was heading back out to the US. And he says to me, so my friend says to me, look, Chris, I know you didn't have this passport plan, but if you give me 30% of the business, any amount of money you want to have, right?
Wow.
And I had to make that decision within the next week. But the business got started. We got the funds. That was not part of any plan. I was just telling somebody a story, and it happened. Now, it was after that I learned about this thing called law of attraction. Never knew about law of attraction before. So I'm not going to say that it is because of law of attraction that happened. But guess what? It could be.
Right? And that's not how the law works, because you don't have to know about gravity for gravity to hold you upright.
Exactly. Which is why I said it. So, and I could tell you about how I ended up in France with no money, right? And end up on a first class ticket going somewhere. But so many of these things are happening now that I don't understand how the law works. So do I believe that there's something to it? Yes.
It's belief. You said it before. It's not so much that you're just gonna say it. It's backing up. Having faith without works is dead. And seek and you shall find. There are lots of places where the law occurs. It's written and where it has been demonstrated. And it really comes back to, if you see, what do I say? If you believe it, you can achieve it. It's about the belief. It's about how you feel about what you have stated that you desire to occur. It's about seeing it as it is, and just having a conviction of that. So again, thank you for indulging us. I am not going to hold you any further because I know you have many other pressing engagements. We have been talking. It's been such a wonderful chat. I don't want to stop. I hope our listeners have been enjoying the conversation as well. And I don't see any questions here, not that we have any time for them, but I thank you so much. I want to thank you so much, Chris Reckord, for having had this conversation with us and sharing your entrepreneur's journey. As it's taken us quite a few different destinations, different locations that we visited, and it's been insightful, it's been edifying, and it's been inspiring.
Thank you very much. I enjoy sharing. It would be nice sharing it over a glass of wine, right?
I thought that too, but I was like, it's too early in the day. I would have gone for a glass of wine when I thought that you're a wine connoisseur, but I said,
you could modify it and just have a little sparkling with some orange juice. Right?
A mimosa, right? That's what we call the mimosa? Okay. Yeah, but it's been a real gift having this time with you. Really appreciate it, and I hope that we get to talk again at some other point in time. Wish you all the best, you and your team at tTech, your family, and everybody, the extended family.
Just one additional thing, I just need to let you know that it was a Wilmer's connection. So my high school I went to was Wilmer's. It was a Wilmer's connection that made this happen. And
you know, Colin Coley, big up yourself.
Exactly, right? Colin Coley, Wilmeria. And by the way, Colin calls me every year to lecture a course that he does, that he teaches. What you yes. So I was talking about entrepreneurship and the journey, a short version of the journey. So thanks, Colin, for inviting me to do this. This is my attempt to share and give back on ideas that I have. I have bumped my toe many times, and I will try to show here's what not to do, and here's what I've read that has helped me in this way and that way. So thank you very much, Kira.
You're very welcome.
Have a fantastic rest of the day and a good weekend.
You too, and all the best for this time. And this whole conversation is really for us to see the human side of the entrepreneur. I know we get a lot of the technical and the business stuff, but I want our viewers to see that our entrepreneurs who have achieved and who have done well are humans, and they go through the same things, the same struggles, and it's not impossible. So thank you so much again, and I think this is where we sign off.
Thank you, and thank all the folks who are watching online. I see a bunch of the comments now that I've logged on.
You're seeing them?
I just logged in a while ago to see it because I get distracted easy, My brain is... So thank you very much for the positive comments. And I'm on Facebook, and so ask me questions anytime and I'll answer where I can. Have a fantastic rest of the week. And thanks to everything that JBDC does.
You're most welcome. All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.